Do you ever just sit down long enough that you see dust settle on you? I hate that.
That's a pretty good impression.
Thanks.
That's pretty damn good.
He's dead.
He is dead.
Yeah.
Anyway.
3, 2. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 354, being recorded on June 17th, 2015. I'm Ryan Shroud.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Allyn Malventano.
Is that one of those filters on your Logitech headset too, Josh?
No,
that's a
that's
Josh
Dead Annie
filter.
Rooney, who's back on 60 Minutes.
That
Do
was
you ever record a podcast and sometimes you just think to yourself, I don't know what to say, and so you say anything? I hate that.
That's pretty good, man.
Is it?
Yeah.
I only know him in his last days. Was he the guy who was always at the end of the show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a guy who always writes a column at the very end of Fortune magazine. Who I can't remember his name. Somebody will know who it is, and it's always something similar to that.
Yeah.
And I imagine it being a very similar type of person.
Yep.
Anyway, in other news, it was hardware week in the world. I don't know.
I thought it was more game stuff week.
It's right. It's E3 week. Thank you.
Yeah.
Which stands for games times 3.
Also stands for
Plus-
Gabe wants all your money.
Plus hardware.
Right, they are doing a Steam sale, I guess, at the same time. So welcome to the show, everybody. We record the show on Wednesdays, 10 p.m.-ish Eastern, 7 p.m.-ish Pacific at pcper.com/live. Welcome to anybody who is... There's probably a lot of you, this is your first time here, and so I apologize about all the upfront problems of the laptop that won't be used anymore in production
Yes.
of the show. But don't worry, we're back on schedule starting about 20 minutes late. So... if you're new and you want to sign up and if you like these types of live events, we record it, we put it out after the fact in audio form and on YouTube and everything. But if you want to be here for the interesting stuff, the chat room, go to pcper.com/subscribe. You can fill out this little form here. It just shows, just ask for your name and your email address. And all we do is send you a little email about an hour before these events start, give you a little bit of head start. Hope, make sure you hurry home from work. Or,
But then you'll ask you for things like, can you verify your social security number and address and the social security numbers of your children, and we can verify that we're actually sending you the email.
Yes, that's very important stuff. Also, we don't spam it. Side story real quick. My cousin and I manage this Florida condo on vrbo.com, right?
Yep.
And some lady called, as they do, unfortunately, and it was like, hey, I have a question about this. I was like, yeah, that's fine. She's like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and fill out the payment form on vrbo.com. I was like, okay, great. I thought that was the end of the conversation. No, she wanted me to be on the phone to make sure it all went through and that, it got verified and it showed up on my side that the condo was rented.
I see.
And she was like, okay, well, let me get the credit card. And as she was typing it in her computer over the phone, she read
mumbled?
it all out loud to me, like her credit card. She goes, "Oh, and the expiration 5/17."
And security
code.
What's that?
And-
It's 379.
She read it all out loud to me on the phone. I'm sitting there going, "Wow, this is."
Meanwhile, Ryan's on Amazon.com.
this is how people just get totally taken.
Why did I get so many Hitachi products?
I
thought I only
remember
needed
any of
the
that.
three.
They're all sent to Wyoming.
So I guess my piece of advice is to don't do that. But do sign up for the subscription list so that we can send you emails of other events. We are going to have, as you can see on the schedule on the right-hand side, actually, I don't know if you can see it.
Don't send us your credit card
Yeah, you can see it right here.
We don't want
We are going to do a Batman Arkham Knight game stream.
Oh, is that what's going on with the
During the
shirt?
daytime?
That's actually unrolated to my T-shirt,
Oh.
but I am wearing a Batman T-shirt.
Yes.
At this point, I just grab T-shirts and go. For all the stuff that's been going on. So if my wife decides not to have a baby until after June 23rd, then we'll have this game stream on time. It'll be regularly scheduled. We're going to give away some game keys and some hardware and stuff. So we will let you know about that through that mailing list as well. So maybe sign up. Maybe sign up. We're going to do something a little bit different for this episode. Usually we kind of go through our reviews first. There's not a whole bunch of stuff that we actually reviewed. There's a Zenfone review, there's a notebook review, and some other little things that we'll talk about. But I think what everybody wants to talk about is all the waves and all the news that AMD had from E3. So while E3 is going on, and you can listen to Microsoft or Sony or EA or Ubisoft or all these game guys, there's some cool stuff that has come out of there for sure.
There was cool stuff.
Just Cause 3 maybe being the best and most interesting thing I saw there. Yes, Ken, you unmuted yourself.
Battlefront.
Star Wars Battlefront is in, and that's coming out this year, so that's even better, because I think Just Cause 3 might be a next year thing. But Battlefront looked pretty awesome as well. But let's talk about AMD was the title sponsor of something called the PC Gaming Show, which was actually hosted and put on by PC Gamer, I believe, which is a Future-owned property. Future is the name of the company. It's it's not owned by the Future of Time. But maybe it will be in the future. I don't know. So it was put on by them. They had a bunch of game devs come up, show demos, do interviews. It was interesting. Maybe a little bit long. Maybe a lot of bit long, but it was long. But it was interesting. AMD showed some stuff there. They had a press conference earlier in the day. And they basically kind of officially announced all the stuff that we had expected them to announce, plus some extra stuff that was actually really cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to start out with what I think everybody... Well, I guess we don't really have an item here for the 300 series, so I will mention this before we dive into the Fury X. But they did announce the R7 360, the R7 370, the R9 380, R9 390, and R9 390X.
Okay.
Now, these are all based on existing GPUs. 390X, 390 are still Hawaii. The 380 is Tonga. 370 is
Pitcairn.
Yeah, and the 360 is as well, I think.
Are they clocking them
sure?
faster?
Bonaire.
Bonaire,
I think
yeah,
it's
right.
Bonaire.
It's the newer GPU, right?
Like clocking them faster? What are they doing different?
So the 390X and 390 are 8 gigs
Oh, so more RAM.
of memory, right? Not up to 8 gigs. They will all have 8 gigs.
Okay.
So that's an advantage. The clock speeds are a little bit higher on the memory. The clock speeds are a little bit higher on the GPU. And then...
And supposedly they don't pull as much power as 290X, but we have yet to see that.
Yeah,
for
we
ourselves.
don't really know. By the time that, if you're listening to this live, you don't know yet. If you're listening to this not live, you will know. So keep that in mind. The stories on if any reviews go up of 390, 390X, that kind of stuff, that will be out tomorrow. So we'll have more information there. I will say, everybody will call these rebrands. It's probably a fair description of it. We'll see if there's any interesting performance changes or power consumption changes, as Josh noted there, and if the 8 gigs of frame buffer has some kind of added value there. The one thing I'll point out that was it was disappointing, and I didn't really realize it until today, because they kind of, if we know what GPUs are based on, like the 370 doesn't support FreeSync.
I was asking you about this the other day.
Or True Audio, right? But all the other ones
XDMA.
do. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it does do the dynamic scaling, doesn't it?
It will. That's a software thing. So yeah, it will support the VSR.
Still at least get that.
So this is a new model number.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a new part, but a new model number.
Correct.
A new thing coming out that doesn't support FreeSync.
So the same GPU, the 370, was the 270. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah, I think it's the 270X.
270X. And I think that's why they took it from an R9 rated product to an R7 designated product. So I think their branding might be all R9 products support FreeSync. And
at least then there's something that you know.
Yes, there needs to be some kind of designation where you're not just guessing on whether it does before. And if that's what it is, that's fine. But I think Bonaire technically would support FreeSync as well. Because remember, the 260X supported it.
Okay, then. Yes.
Right? And it supported it, and then the 285,
Well, I
and then
think
the
Bonaire
290,
is GCN 1.1, which is the same as Hawaii.
Okay, well then, yeah, it would.
Tonga is 1.2, and Fiji is somewhere above that.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of what the 390, 390X stuff is.
Right.
We'll talk about. Did they announce pricing at the thing?
Yeah.
They did. So it's like $429. Just check the website tomorrow. We'll have all the details on that stuff then. It will be an interesting discussion on next week's podcast to decide if the price differences, performance differences, and kind of branding differences make it a worthwhile change. What is interesting and is definitely worthwhile and talking about and hopefully reviewing is the hey laptop. Oh, hey, look at that. The Radeon R9 Fury X and Fury graphics cards, which they announced. I have to be a little bit careful here, and I'll just say this on the podcast because we have other stories pending on this.
Yep.
And some of the information is public as we record this podcast, and some of it isn't. So I'm going to try to be careful here. But if anybody from AMD is listening, I apologize in advance if I just tell all the secrets. But the Radeon R9 Fury X, so it does have that branding. We weren't sure if it would be
Yeah, we
knew
didn't know
it would
the
be
name for
Fury,
sure. Yeah.
but we didn't know if it'd be Radeon. We didn't know if it'd be R9. It is Radeon R9 Fury X. It is based on Fiji with HBM. It's got 4,096 stream processors. They said it had 8.6 teraflops of single precision compute performance, 8.9 billion transistors, and a $649 price tag available June 24th.
Sounds kind of like a 980 Ti.
The pricing is, right? I don't remember what the theoretical peak compute of a 980 Ti is. I'm sure it's a...
I thought it was somewhere around 8. Thought it was somewhere around the 8 number.
NVIDIA tends to be a little bit lower on those peak computes.
Yeah.
What it turns into game-wise is obviously up in the air. They announced that there would be a Fury air-cooled version. They didn't give it a price.
Fury X is water.
Fury X is kind of what we expected it to be. It is the water-cooled version, the smaller PCB. You can see here in this picture that there's no air outlet or inlet, whatever you want to call it, like on the back plate, because there's no fan on the card itself. So this is the card itself. Let me actually go to go to my other pictures here real quick. So these are the pictures that came out on Friday, and you can get a little bit better idea of what this card looks like. So it is small, but it is a self-contained water cooler. Actually, I found out it's a Cooler Master part.
Yeah,
right?
people were trying to figure it out in the comments, and I think they figured it out.
This is the flash showing one of these as well. So you get an idea what the card looks like. It looks like we expected it to look like. It is a water-cooled card. It has two 8-pin power connectors, which in theory gives it up to 375 watts of power capability, staying within spec. Remember, the 295X2 had two.
Is this when you yell out, "They are who we thought they were"?
It is, but I was gonna, but now you ruined it.
I know.
The joke was gone.
Go Dennis Green.
Yeah. So that's the Fury X, $650, available June 24th, or launching to the 24th. There are questions about availability quantity that have been floating around for a while, and we'll know on the 24th how that pans out. The AMD Fury, they didn't give any details on. They didn't talk about how many stream processors it have or what its compute capability was, just that it would be $549, so $100 less. It would be air-cooled, and it will be a, partner produced.
Still based on the same,
It's still a Fiji GPU with HBM, but it might be cut back.
Right.
I expect it to be cut back, at least a little bit. So I'll be curious, what does a Fury GPU with an air cooler look like? Right?
Probably
Does it have to be
big.
big? Is the PCB small and just the heatsink big? Do they make the PCB bigger because, hey, we got to have something to support the heatsink anyway?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right. So you've got to think that it's going to consume near the power of the 290X, maybe a little bit more.
Right.
I think close. And so the heat sinks have to be at least comparable. One thing they said about the Fury X, I know that they said publicly, is that under a typical gaming load, with their water cooler, they expect the GPU to be at 50C.
Okay.
Which is low.
Which is awesome.
It's quite low.
Yeah.
That's 30C less than where NVIDIA has their GPUs getting on their reference designs.
But if you have a water-cooled GPU, you can get them to 50C pretty easily.
Clearly.
No, I'm just saying, generally speaking, not just like
Well,
this card's...
I mean, you could water cool the GPU poorly and not.
I guess you could.
I mean,
water cool it
yeah,
poorly,
but I mean,
it looks like they're doing it well.
The point is that this is the card from AMD as it comes. This is their reference. It's not just the reference design. It's the only way the Fury X is going to be
it's
sold.
the only way you're going to get it.
So if you get a Fury X, it will be a 50 degrees Celsius water-cooled part. The
That's
water
good.
cooling part is great. It makes it a little bit more complicated to build a system around it, right? You have to make sure your case supports it. If you have a CPU cooler that already uses kind of one of those self-contained units, you have to be a little
You got to make
concerned
sure you have
about
two openings in the back.
where the space is.
Yeah.
I think they said something about making the tubing a little bit longer on the Fury X so that it would maybe fit at the front of the case or at the top.
It seemed pretty long.
It seemed pretty long in the system you looked at. So that's good. They claim that it has 6-phase power, 400 amp power delivery capability, and 1.5x performance per watt improvement when compared to 290X. 1.5x performance per watt. And then if we assume it's using about the same power,
Right.
you would assume that it would be about 50% better performance than a
performance.
290X. That's just based on their estimates and our ability to decompose based on that.
Yeah.
The cooler, they said, was designed for up to 500 watts, but the board was only going to draw 275 at its kind of typical gaming level.
Yeah.
But then up to 375 with overclocking if you guys want to change it. They didn't talk about like what voltage adjustments they would allow or anything like that.
Or I guess if you're doing GPU type stuff,
right?
you probably go over it too, right?
That's true. And let's see. Do we also have? We do have a Fury X2 thing on there. They announced that there was going to be a dual version of it later in the day.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alerts for later in the podcast. So I thought that they presented Fury X very well. There's a lot of questions about pricing and performance, and we don't know exactly where the performance is going to fall on this in relation to the GTX 980 Ti, the Titan X, or the 980, right? Those are the ones that it needs to compete with. It's the exact same price as the 980 Ti, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we need to know, being as that AMD launched afterwards, they have the advantage of knowing where NVIDIA stands with everything. So you would think that they'll be at the 980 Ti, maybe a little bit above, maybe a little bit below, but probably a little bit above 980 Ti.
I think with the water, it might be very interesting as far as overclocking goes. Like if you were to overclock an 980 Ti as far as it would go, and this card as high as it would go, this one, even if they started at dead even.
But if they're going to be more, the key will be if they're more friendly on the voltage modding.
That's the thing, and I would expect the AMD card to be more
Joe
friendly.
Macri, when he got up there, he said, our board is a 400 amp unit, and so you do amps times voltage, and you get watts. So let's assume it's a 1.2 volt part. They can apply up to 480 approximately watts to this setup, and they've got oddly enough, a 500 watt TDP cooler installed.
Yep.
So potentially, I mean, it might only ship at 275,
right?
For those values, but you could potentially overclock it way high.
I think that's really interesting, right? Because again, somebody who buys a $650 video card, there's two people that buy $650 video cards. There's ones that just have $650, and they're just like, I'm just going to plug it in, I'm going to run it, and it's going to work great. And there's somebody who's like, I want the best of the best, and then I'm also going to futz with it, and I'm going to make it better.
Yeah.
And those people tend to be disappointed in what NVIDIA has done recently in terms of locking down the voltages from even their partners being allowed to make changes to it, right? So if AMD is more open with that and lets, I think there's even a switch on it for like dual BIOS or something. So I don't know if that means
this one?
on the Fury X.
Okay.
And now that could be just a safety precaution, or it could be like, hey, we've unlocked it if you flip this switch, like voltage-wise.
Right.
Which would be really cool.
It would be.
And I think that's... I think there's a lot of stuff interesting there that could happen. So we'll know more on June 24th, which by my watch doesn't show the date. What's today? The 17th. So today's 17th?
Yeah.
That's twice.
Isn't that a pebble?
It is. It shows the day, but it doesn't show the date.
It's the 17th.
Okay.
I can change the face. So it's 17th. So next Wednesday is when this thing launches.
Right.
So we'll know by next Wednesday night.
Stay tuned.
By the next podcast, we'll know what the Fury X actually does. So pay attention to that. But they also had more, like, that's what we expected to see launched. And then they had some really cool stuff that we didn't expect. Like something called the Nano, the AMD R9.
This is like the best hidden aspect of the entire launch. Nobody
had any idea.
We knew about the dual, we knew about the water cooling, we knew potentially about air cooling.
Yeah, because there were leaks left and right. But
nobody knew about the Nano.
Yeah.
So you got to do kudos to AMD.
Yeah, they did. This is, they claim, it's a 6-inch PCB. Josh, and those mini ITX boards that you've had, how big are those? Are those 6 or 7?
They're approximately 6 inch. It's the same size as that particular one. I'd whip one out and show how much performance you can get into 6 inches.
But you disappoint everybody.
I would, because
now that the R9 Nano exists, you'll never live up to it.
No.
So AMD's CEO Lisa Su was on there, announced the Radeon R9 Nano. It will feature 2 times the performance per watt of the R9 290X.
Okay.
As well as, quote, significantly more performance than the 290X itself. So we know the Fury X is probably going to be 50% faster than 290X.
Right.
This is going to be less than that, clearly.
Obviously.
And 2 times the performance per watt, right? So, but as you lower the voltage and you lower the power consumption, then you improve efficiency.
So what is the significance of making this as small as it is? Like, what's the...
You can get it in, like, the whole, like, one of the big advantages, not the whole thing, but the advantage of HBM, high bandwidth memory, is you can change the form factor.
That's true.
And this is a demonstration of that they can get 4 gigs of memory on a Fiji GPU on this form factor, and it's apparently air-cooled. And that's the thing that confuses me, right? They have a 500 watt water cooler on Fury X. And then they have this one single fan, doesn't look like a huge beefy heatsink graphics card on these R9 Nano. And they're both apparently using Fiji. Now, obviously, this is probably a cut down Fiji GPU.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious. Like, they still say more than an R9 290X. My guess is it's going to be just like 10% maybe, something like that. I don't know if that quote counts as significantly.
I'd like to see, because then you'd imagine that there'd probably pretty quickly be aftermarket water blocks.
I guess.
For that guy.
Well, literally no one's going to do that.
That defeats the purpose
Really?
of this.
This is to put it on a home theater PC,
Right.
and get the most badass 4K gaming home theater PC you can,
in a small
smallest
form
capacity.
I guess I just don't understand. Like, if this is so close to the performance of Fury X, then you start to wonder, like, why did they go the route of this huge water cooler to begin with? I think part of it, for Fury X at least, why they went with this water cooler and this very unique and I think very interesting and good-looking design is they wanted something that looks cool.
Yeah.
They were tired of being pooped on. I'm using I'm trying to get used to not cussing because I'm going to have a kid soon. They don't...
Good luck.
That'll go in hand in
in fact,
hand.
your cussing increases dramatically when you have children. So just letting you know.
I don't like... What the hell was I saying?
Exactly.
I think they were tired of getting a bad rap for making poor reference designs. The 290X launch with their reference coolers were horrible.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And everybody knows that now. And they're like, well, we don't want to do that anymore. So they kind of went way beyond what even like the Titan X, the 90.
That is definitely beyond.
Yeah. So this R9 Nano is just like this really cool thing. We don't know anything about it. I think they said it'd be available in the fall. I think that's what they said. Late summer or fall.
want to release that in the summer.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it says availability later this summer. Actually, that's what I wrote.
Well, if you think about the design, which is kind of interesting, is that one, it's an 8-pin PCIe connector. So that's a max of, I think, 225 watts. And they're going to be lower than that. So they're probably going to be matching the GTX 970 in terms of power delivered. But if you think of HBM, the PCB, it only needs the power because you've got all the memory, the GPU on that substrate, and the PCB only needs then to apply power to that as well as the PCIe routing and traces. I mean, and then of course, to the display outputs. But that, it takes a big chunk out of it because you don't have that external memory. So that's less power, less complexity, smaller form factor. I mean, all of these things are very, very positive. And I think it's going to be an interesting part when it comes out, especially I hesitate to say the TDP because I can't remember if that's NDA or not.
Let's not.
I thought it's not?
No, I'd say let's not talk. Let's not say.
Okay.
Of which card? Of the Fury?
No, of the Nano.
Oh, I didn't even know we knew that, to be honest. So
I didn't even know we knew that.
So it's definitely NDA if you know.
Okay, well, I shan't be saying it, but it's competitive with the competing NVIDIA product, which is a nice change of pace.
I think this is pretty cool. Like, and it was one of those things that was like, not only is this like a total surprise and good on them, but it's like this is a useful product.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on to another total surprise that is probably a little bit lower in the usefulness scale of things.
Pretty cool.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So AMD also announced something called Project Quantum, which this here. It is a dual Fiji computer that looks like what you have there. So that is those are the manliest hands of one Chris Hook holding up.
Well, he's Canadian.
No, that's Huddy.
That's Huddy?
Oh,
yeah. That's Richard Huddy.
Kind of reminds me of something out of Battlestar Galactica.
I guess do I apologize to Richard or do I apologize to Chris?
I don't know. I don't know who you.
I don't know.
Isn't Huddy English?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Canadian English doesn't matter.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So this is a liquid-cooled PC So here's kind of another shot. So what you have here is you have this bottom portion and then a separate compartment up here. And all of the computing parts, the processor, the GPUs, the motherboard, they're all down here. And up here it's all water-cooled. So you have the CPUs being water-cooled, the two GPUs are being water-cooled.
Yep.
all that running up there.
Then it runs up through the center to the top.
It runs up to the center, all the tubing and all that stuff and power delivery. And it looks really awesome.
Yeah.
And it's got this cool red glow to it. There's a little video here. I'll go ahead and play through some of it. But
why did you tease us?
The most disappointing part about this is they basically said, I mean, this was a, I guess, Ken, you were there. You could
proof of
say
concept.
Sure. Yes. Is that right, Ken?
Yeah.
So they're not going to sell it. They're just like, hey, OEMs, look what you can build with our new hardware.
But it was more like, look what we did. But
yeah, you got to wonder like how much money they spent in developing this.
It's probably just like 3D printed and like.
I mean, they showed
the shell was probably 3D printed or something.
So interesting enough, they were using these for demos yesterday.
How many did they have?
I don't know how many they had, but I probably saw 4 or 5 running.
Oh, okay.
So this is like not.
So I mean, you can see in this video, like they're showing you kind of the development process.
So they did a run of them.
There's some of the 3D work they were doing.
These exist in real life and they're a thing. And
there's a thermal architect right there.
Yeah.
See,
I think it might be more showing partners like, hey, make some cool stuff and maybe passing the files along and say, do your own thing with it, which is awesome, and that's what they should be doing with this.
Yeah.
Because
it shows them they're using an ASRock motherboard. They are using a Haswell processor for people who are curious. They're using a Z97 platform and an Intel Haswell processor.
Wow. And that would be silly not to.
Because it's a dual GPU system, you need CPU horsepower.
Oh, okay.
Thermals are tight.
Thermals are tight.
Yeah. Rather than having a 220 watt CPU sitting in the bottom that you also need to cool, let's just go with that 87 watt unit.
No. All right.
Now this came out in the video later. That was not shown on stage and probably wasn't shown at the demo stations either.
No, it was not.
This is the power delivery, right? So like this is the power supply for all of it. And that's a separate compartment. So it's like a little bit of cheatery here in taking like the power supply out of it.
It's got to be come on. I mean
it's still cool. Like I still think it's neat. Like
I mean you can
if that's cable is long enough, if it can be run far enough, you could set that on the floor, right? Keep the chassis on your desk.
Which is what they were doing. They had these on regular size like
it took a little bit of the awe
it just
away
has
from
a power
me when
brick.
I saw that screenshot from the video, but
that's fine.
It's still a really cool thing that I wish they would sell.
Yeah,
but
they're not.
AMD is a smaller company with struggling finances. They probably don't want to go on a whole thing of becoming a system builder and supporting all that stuff. Would be my guess. Even though I think this is a killer design, maybe they'll like say, "Hey,
it's kind of like the AMD NUC, except we're going to crush your NUC with our really big NUC."
Yep.
But we're not going to call it a NUC.
It's also way bigger.
And we're not going to sell it.
And we're also not going to sell it. I mean,
you can't have it. Nah.
What I would like to see is like, I don't know, Main Gear, just copy it or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Change that AMD logo to like AMD and Main Gear, right? Whoever their closest SI is, their closest partner in the system integration, just take this, sell it and run with it. Sell a single GPU version.
Small strip mall guy in Austin that their main.
Yeah, I know that guy too.
Yeah.
Sell a single GPU version, sell a dual GPU version, and put it out there. And I think that would be pretty awesome. That's Project Quantum. Yeah. So here's some screenshots of the motherboard that they're using there. Yep. There you go. And here's some rendering of the water loop layout. So it is one big radiator up there. You can see the pump and everything.
If they'd sell those diagrams, system builders could do it in a second.
That's right. Get some 3D printing out, like Allyn was saying, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gives you a picture, an idea of the back.
The nice, interesting power connector.
Whoa, where'd the picture go? Whoa, this is a giant picture. All right.
What have you done?
Whose hands are those, Rand?
Those are. Is that Lisa?
Yeah.
There.
Yes.
All right. So what is that back there? What
so
is
back
that
here, you've
MIT ring. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Man, fancy. I guess I'd wear that all the time too. So here's the power input right here, right? And you got your analog audio. You've got 2 USB 3, 4 regular USB. That's a little unfortunate. Gigabit Ethernet, and then you've got 3 DisplayPort and HDMI. So I mean, that still looks awesome. Like the fact that it's this pedestal.
One thing I had heard, I guess rumor, but wasn't sure. Is that HDMI 2 or HDMI 1.4?
1.4.
Yeah, all the stuff that's come out has said that it's 1.4.
Why on earth?
I don't have an answer for that.
Because DP 1.2a.
For a 4K television?
No, I don't know what the answer. I think they dropped the ball.
That's an unfortunate thing if that turns out to be true, that it only supports. It's not a killer deal again.
It's not a killer if it's a desktop
because
use.
if you're building a desktop, that's fine. But if you're going to put that in a home theater,
right, then it's an issue.
Especially like that little thing or the R9 Nano
or any derivative of that.
Something that's supposed to build home theater PC. Not having HDMI 2.0 is kind of a letdown there. No denying it, because TVs aren't shipping with. I know of one TV that ships with a DisplayPort 1.2A connection.
Yeah.
So that's that, and then. During that PC gaming show, Lisa Su, with her MIT ring, comes up on stage and shows this. This is the Radeon R9 Fury. I'm going to just call it the X2 because that's what they're going to call it, right?
Probably.
Right. They just call it the dual Fiji card throughout, But if you got the Fury X, you're going to have the Fury X2.
Yeah.
Because you already had the 295 X2. It just makes sense, right? Right? Am I right, guys?
Am I right? Hey?
So what's interesting about this board, other than it has two of these enormous interposers on there and one PLX chip in the middle to bridge them, only two 8-pin power connectors again.
That's not bad.
So it's a question, right? Are these GPUs cut down?
I kind of wonder if
they might be cut down.
When scaling in frequency, that they get to a point where it's a logarithmic scale.
Well, sure.
And so maybe these are not all that slower in terms of actual megahertz, but I think it's just that's a really big chip. And once you start getting faster and faster, then it climbs up. And I'm wondering how long I'm going to be on, because there is a lot of lightning going on outside.
No, don't be so scared.
Repent.
Actually, on my drive back from the hospital to the office, there was a lot of lightning and thunderstorming going on there too. So there's that. Also, this picture was sent to me by.
Oh, you're allowed to show it?
I don't know if I'm allowed to. I'm going to at this point because the card exists. So this was sent to me like 3 days before. This was sent to me, I think, on Sunday. Or Saturday, and. It was sent to me from one of those anonymous email services, right? So I couldn't even reply to them and ask questions. But it just said, this is how they test it before they put the water block on. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I started looking at it, and it's like, okay, this is clearly a two GPU card.
Right.
And they're just using like Mori size.
Look at the size of that cooling on the VRM.
They went over to Maury's house.
Yeah, look at that VRM heatsink.
And they raided his closet.
Serious.
Those are PSU heatsinks.
Also, this picture came to me with this Decepticon logo embedded in it. I did not do that. I did put the PC Perspective logo here, but I did not put the Decepticon logo. So whoever sent it to me clearly is a fan of the Transformers and wanted to make sure that his logo was on there.
I just want to know how the hell they mounted that card without it cracking off.
I imagine it's tested horizontally. Yeah.
Even still.
It's still pretty funny to look at. I'm not going to lie. But it gives you an idea of maybe how they're like testing cards by hand and kind of binning them based on clock speeds and stuff like that. So just an interesting look at that type of stuff. So that's the Fury X2. That they say is fall. This is the one they said was fall.
I think they just said later.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think it said fall. But I don't know.
I think they said fall. Let me do a Control F for fall. This card has been promised to us in the fall. Pricing and power and performance are to be discussed later.
As well as cooling choices.
It's got to be water-cooled. If the Fury X is water-cooled, this is going to be water-cooled. And it doesn't look that much bigger than the Fury X.
Or it'll come with those two air coolers on it.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the PCB length, it's not adding a whole lot to it compared to the Fury X.
No, it's not.
So for the first time in a while, I am excited about what AMD has on the high end. And I guess that's fair because they haven't really done anything for 2 years.
It's true.
Right? So
Come on, Tonga was last year, right before the GTX 970 and 980.
I said high end.
It overshadowed them both.
I said high end.
Overshadowed them.
High end.
Whoa. Josh, you're right over there.
So,
what? No.
290, 290X Hawaii GPU, that was 2 years ago, next month?
Yeah.
I think. So this is really cool, and even though we know NVIDIA is going to have HBM in Pascal next year sometime, AMD has an advantage.
Like in a year from now.
Yeah. AMD has this advantage. If they can use it, they can price things. If it's performance competitive, if they can make it in volume, then I think this is a really cool part. I know a lot of people that are either inside NVIDIA or big NVIDIA fans will target the fact that it requires water cooling, and I think the fact that the Fury air cooled proves that it doesn't require water cooling.
Yeah, but we don't know how that.
We don't know how it compares.
We don't know how it looks performance wise or any of that. So,
but I really don't think that the water cooling part is as big and negative as some people seem to think it is.
Well, if you think of the world where we put a all-in-one water cooler in our 75-watt CPU, yet our 250-watt GPU is air-cooled, that doesn't make any sense.
That's true.
You're right. It doesn't. And other than the additional complexity of finding a place for the radiator...
Are you doing the Chewbacca defense?
I have no idea.
It makes no sense. Chewbacca's a Wookiee.
South Park.
Damn it. Move along.
As
Why
much
does
of a
he
Star
still
Wars,
do that stuff?
as much
I know
of a Star
all about
Wars
Chewbacca.
nut.
I know all, but Chewbacca doesn't speak English.
Listen. You do not know.
His lawyer did.
You do not know all about Chewbacca if you do not know the Chewbacca defense. You don't. It has its own Wikipedia page, for crying out loud.
It's not a thing. It's not a real thing.
I'm just saying.
If the glove does not fit, you must acquit.
Was it on like the holiday special? Oh, it was on South Park? That doesn't count. I'm sorry. If it was on South Park, it doesn't put it in Star Wars canon.
It's a meme for years.
It doesn't put it in Star Wars canon.
Oh, it'll eventually get there.
Anyway.
And then it'll be taken out again, just like the books.
Yes.
Fine.
Oh, it was in Star Wars, or it was in South Park, so it counts as Star Wars stuff. No.
And Mara Jade is still alive.
Moving on. That's all the AMD stuff that we have, I think, for you. Let me look at the list. Yeah, that's all the AMD stuff we have.
You were going to say something.
Was I? Until I was rudely interrupted?
Yeah.
I don't think that the water cooling is a big negative for the for a $600 card. The type of person that buys a $600 card is either one buying it from an SI, so they don't really care what the installation process is, or is really interested in what their system looks like and how it feels.
If you're buying it,
the process.
If you're buying it with the intent to overclock it, the water cooling is a bonus.
The water cooling is a bonus as long as the voltage is unlocked.
Sure.
Water cooling a 980 Ti makes way less sense.
Have you seen any AMD cards with voltages locked?
I don't
think they do that.
No, they don't do that.
I don't think they do.
That's an NVIDIA thing.
Yeah. But I mean, they could. It's a brand new GPU, so we don't know for sure if they're not going to do that.
But it would be surprising if they did, is my point.
It was surprising when NVIDIA did it.
Well, yeah.
So, yes, I think this offers some advantages. Yeah, does it mean installation is a little bit more complicated because now you have to use two hands to install a water block and you have to find a place to put it. I'm not going to say that the self-contained water blocks are super easy to install because sometimes in some cases with they're a pain in the ass.
Right.
To line it up and get the screws in and all that stuff. But, again, for somebody who's buying a $600 to $700 video card, I just feel like they're going to be okay with that. And I think it looks neat enough that it's something that they're going to be proud of.
It feels like a really premium product. It actually does.
Does it? So you actually?
Yeah, he's had it in his hand.
Ken held it. He went to E3 for me since I was stuck here, and got to hold it and use it.
Yeah.
Maybe not use it, but you did play. Yeah. But I mean, it didn't feel like plasticky and cheap and stuff.
There's no plastic on it.
Oh.
The only plastic is like the PCIe power connectors, which are always plastic.
Right.
It's all nickel-plated metal, and the little accent areas are die-cut aluminum with like soft touch plastic coating over it. Huh. So it's all metal. Instead of having a separate backplate,
but it's not furry.
A little furry. The soft touch plastic.
Oh boy.
Instead of having a separate backplate and a cooler, it wraps around actually, so it's one kind of cohesive design, and it's like a chamfered edge across that side.
Probably be hard to take apart, but still look cool.
You shouldn't have it apart, really.
You probably shouldn't.
Again,
that's one of those things that you shouldn't have to buy an aftermarket cooler for.
Yeah, it felt like a really premium product. It probably felt a little more premium than I will say, Titan cooler at this point.
Right. Well, I was going to say,
pretty plasticky. As
stagnant as NVIDIA's GPU, reference designs have been, like cooler-wise, I still think those look good. AMD needed to do something to make it. What's that? Not a Halo product, but like the
Halo products.
No, the thing you want to
think that
you want to reach up for. There's like, what's the term that I'm thinking of? It's like you want to make it like
the apex of design.
Somebody in the chat will figure it out, but it's the device that you strive to get.
Yeah,
no,
that's usually
the Halo effect.
Halo.
Yeah. Well, Halo effect means that you make a good thing. It makes all the other things.
No,
look better.
it means you make a.
I said it
Volkswagens look better because of Audis.
Correct.
Audi is the Halo
but,
product.
but I'm not
Oh, that's
talking
the
about.
ugly friend effect.
I'm sorry. The Fury X doesn't make the 390X look like a better product.
Well, that's what
right?
they're hoping.
So, yeah, but it doesn't. Anyway.
Yeah, well, my wife makes me look like a better product, but that's not saying a whole lot.
Whoa.
Ooh,
Wait, no,
not
that's
sure
good.
who he insulted there.
Probably myself.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that. Anyway, okay, so that was all the AMD stuff that occurred, which was a lot. And like I said, we should have at least two, probably 3 or 4 stories between now and next podcast to talk about AMD again, and they'll be super excited about that. Let's go through the last. Let me look at this thing. Yeah, let's go through the rest of the stuff relatively quickly. Steve did get a review up of the ASUS G751JT CH71. Does that roll off the tongue?
Yeah, really
It's
easy.
a Republic of Gamers notebook from ASUS. Now, here's the problem.
Oh, is that the one that was on?
No, you're not listening to me.
Okay.
Let me tell you what the problem is.
Okay.
It gets too hot when you put it in the sun.
We've had this laptop for a while, unfortunately,
Uh-huh.
and the review's just now coming out.
Right.
This is not the G-Sync enabled model.
Oh, that is a problem.
So everything else is the same in terms of performance that you'll get,
Right.
Usability, keyboard, trackpad,
Same GPU
screen.
even, right?
This one has the 970, and I think the G-Sync model is available in 970 and 980.
Okay.
So you can get it in that. So this has the same thing, but it does not have the G-Sync enabled display.
Because it has to be a specific kind of panel, and that panel is not
Sure.
in this one.
Whatever the reason, it doesn't have it.
Well, and this
So-
one's pretty affordably priced for a gaming laptop.
Yeah, what is this at, Jeremy? This is
1,500.
Yeah, so look at these specs again. You're getting a Core i7 4710 HQ, quad-core, hyper-threaded processor, a 970M, 16 gigs of memory, a hard drive, which we just had this discussion.
Oh, an HD.
1 terabyte
And it comes
hard
with
drive.
a free install of McAfee.
I hope not. 17.3-inch 1080p screen, Windows 8.1, 802.11 AC, 4 USB 3.0 ports, like lots of connectivity, HDMI, Thunderbolt. It does have Thunderbolt as well. That's a lot of gaming
the
notebook for
lightning bolt.
$1,500. Yeah, exactly. It's part of their ROG design. If you look at this is the back where kind of like the ventilation is. You either like it or you don't.
It's pretty beefy looking.
It's a big honking machine.
Yeah.
It's built really well, though.
It's
Yeah,
built
it
well.
is a good build.
Yeah. Ken's
Steve was saying that you could
biggest
twist the
complaint.
back plate on the monitor and it wouldn't deform at all. Like the picture stayed perfectly clear,
Oh,
which
that's
is
good.
pretty heftily built.
Yeah. Ken's biggest problem with it is that this sticker right here, it's a little blown out in this photo, is a Thunderbolt logo sticker.
Yeah.
And it's on
It
not
looks
straight.
It looks like a last minute thing they do for a review product.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for about the past 2 generations on their
Right.
laptops.
So it's clearly like they should just make the mold with a Thunderbolt logo there.
Like they had the USB logo and the
there's
Ethernet
an
logo.
83-year-old
and-
guy at the factory that just licks the
Yeah.
puts it on.
Well, I don't want him to lose
It's his
job.
one job.
And he needs glasses.
It is
Right.
his one job,
Oh.
and you know what? He's inexpensive and he's
He
reliable.
won't go home.
So interestingly, in this model, you can look at it here. There is 2.5-inch drive slots. Only one of them is filled. So
Yep.
if you want to add an SSD, you can absolutely do that.
A 2.5-inch SSD.
2.5-inch SSD, which is great.
Right.
You have more options that way, and the cost is lower.
Yep.
And there's still 2 DIMM slots not filled.
Now look over to the left,
Okay.
above the hard drive slot.
Oh, that looks like an M.2 slot?
I think so.
Yeah.
Where you would have to not use that bay. For
I
the
think
hard
it
drive,
crosses
guess.
over the top of that other hard drive.
Oh,
bay.
you either
We could take this apart and look at it
Yeah.
sometime.
maybe you use it or you don't use that 2.5-inch drive slot. Okay.
Yeah, and it looks like it might be keyed for SATA only, but I'm not absolutely sure.
That would probably be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, that platform's is not brand new, so maybe.
Yep.
Keyboard, lots of options there. The one complaint is this. So you see where the escape button is, and then you see this button. This is like
What is that button?
that brings up
XSplit.
XSplit. Like if you want to do streaming, you hit that button. Great idea. There's a Steam button. What a great idea.
Yeah, there's a give
Well, that is
money
cool.
button.
But
I think lining them up so that the upper left button is not escaped.
Yeah, the problem is
should have been offset.
Many times, like when Tom was here, we were testing out the G-Sync.
He was hitting it.
He would accidentally hit that button when he was trying to hit escape, and it would
they should have shifted it.
Just crash our demo
just by one key.
Yeah, just move it over.
Shifted it over.
It would be fine. Nice big trackpad. I like this. It's okay. It's still not an Apple trackpad. It's not as good as like this Dell XPS 13, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's not something you're supposed to do a whole lot of productivity on. It's not going to have battery life that you're going to want to take it with you anywhere. You're not going to want to carry this onto a plane probably. But I'll skip through most of this other stuff. Steve did a good job in the review. You can check out the battery life. That's not impressive. The performance is impressive.
It's a UPS battery.
Yeah. On CPU performance and that type of thing. GPU performance, you're looking at... Where is it here? So it is modest. These are all gaming notebooks that we're looking at here. The GT72, for example, had 2 GTX 980Ms.
Okay.
Right, so that's why it's...
the fastest.
No, I don't think it did. Maybe it just had one 980M.
Yeah, that looks like it would only be a single.
I'm looking at the Firestrike score here.
Yeah.
81 to 67. That's what it is. So still a good showing here.
I think except for the GE40, that's the cheapest one on that
okay.
benchmark.
Yeah, well, that's good then. That's a. There's Just Cause 2. Just makes me think of Just Cause 3. Couple of benchmarks there. Metro 2033. And there's well over 50 frames per second, 1080p, very high settings. So this is going to be able to do your gaming at 1080p. Obviously, we would recommend the G-Sync version of this. We'll have a review of that coming up later.
Yes.
But it will be more expensive. It's newer. These are
how much more expensive?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that yet. It will be somewhat more expensive. If nothing else, because it is new.
Because the price difference on it this time can't be blamed on a module.
No.
Because there is no module.
But it is a 75 hertz panel.
So it's the panel might cost some more.
Yeah. Panel will probably definitely
and that's more. Not like necessarily NVIDIA's fault because NVIDIA doesn't sell the panel.
No.
Panel somebody else is making.
Yeah. So check that out if you want to, but like I said, I would probably wait for the G-Sync model review and see how that pricing is adjusted there. Josh, you looking for a new Android phone by chance?
No.
Jeremy, you looking for a new Android phone by chance? No.
A what now?
It's a telephone. It's a smartphone.
Does it have a cord?
I thought it was a Zenfone.
It's spelled Phone phone.
Thank you.
Can I call it Beijing, Jing, Jing, Jing?
You could. It would be expensive. It wouldn't matter where the phone is made.
Banana phone?
You could call it China very cheap on the banana phone.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Sebastian posted this review. I'm not gonna go into too much detail here, but I will say you should go check this out. If you are an Android user or you think you want to be an Android user and you're looking for a fairly high-end, low-cost, unlocked phone, ASUS...
For T-Mobile or AT&T?
For T-Mobile or AT&T only in the U.S., that's correct. The ASUS Zenfone 2 launched, I guess, just like at the end of May, I believe. And it is a very...
It's $299!
It's also $199 though.
Well, that too.
You messed it up. You're going to go for the low price.
Well, I'm a high-quality guy.
Oh, okay. So
I like craftsmanship. Is it covered in Corinthian leather?
It is not. That would make for a very poor touchscreen experience.
Leather touchscreen.
So here's the phone. It looks nice. It is let me look at the specifications here. 5.5-inch IPS LCD 1080p resolution screen, in line with the iPhone 6 Plus or the OnePlus One, for example, if you want some sizing characteristics there. Sebastian takes wonderful photographs for his reviews. Like I said, $199 unlocked and $299 unlocked. The differences are, as we scroll down here, the lower price model has 16 gigs of internal storage, 2 gigs of memory, and an Atom 3560 processor. So this is an Intel-powered smartphone, and one that we actually like and recommend, and available in the U.S. This might be the first time that's happened. I think this is definitely the first time. Like, we've seen Lenovo ones that have been available in, China.
Yeah.
Never really in the U.S. So this is clearly a push from Intel, working with a partner they know very well, to get a phone out there that is good. I know they worked together very closely in this to make sure that the Android experience was smooth.
Just the price of that thing is still...
And the pricing is amazing.
It's just
the
crazy.
higher end model for $299, for $100 more, you go from 16 gigs to 64 gigs of internal storage. Both of these have SD cards. Micro
You get the
SD.
fancy Boostmaster with the expensive one too.
That's right. You get a... both phones support turbocharging, but only the higher end model comes with the turbocharger. The other one comes with a standard 2 amp, I think. The higher end model also has 4 gigs of RAM instead of 2 and a slightly faster processor as well. Quad core Atom. They're both quad core. The higher end goes up to 2.33. The other one goes up to 1.83. So pretty impressive specifications. 802.11 AC, 11.4 watt hour batteries, 3,000 milliamp hours, turbocharging support, like I said, and $199 and $299 unlocked on Amazon.
Pretty damn good phone for the money.
It's pretty good. Yeah. And so I had one for a while, and then we got a review sample I sent to Sebastian, and he actually really likes it.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't like, let's see if he's got a picture of it up here. So if you look at the back, it's made out of plastic. It's a plastic phone, but it feels pretty good in your hand still.
Yeah, it's like that.
If you read the review, Sebastian talks about the build quality.
It has like a texture to it. Like it's,
yeah.
It's grippy.
This up here is the button on top is the wake button.
Okay.
The screen button.
Yeah.
And it's a big phone. So if I'm sitting here, I'm holding, this is a Droid Turbo, which is a significantly smaller phone.
And you're trying to reach something.
And you try to hit the button on the top.
You'd have to hold it higher.
You have to hold it higher. I'm used to holding the phone like where it's in the kind of the crook of my palm. And on this one, I couldn't reach the top of it. But ASUS gets around that by enabling a double tap. If you double tap the screen with your thumb, it's like hitting that button up top.
Double tapping the screen anywhere on the screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just go like.
You mean kind of like the LG G3?
Exactly
where
like
you
the LG G3.
Double tapping the screen anywhere puts it into...
Wakes it up.
Oh, wakes it up.
And then you swipe to unlock.
Okay. Not put it into standby.
No, you don't double tap to put it in standby. No.
I was like, that's not going to be very good experience.
Only to wake it up.
No, when you put something down with a double tap, it stays down now.
Oh, okay.
And actually, once this is active, you got it there. You can maybe. You can double tap it.
To go back to sleep.
Oh.
Okay.
But only there. Only on that screen, yeah.
Yeah.
It's still a good feature.
Yeah, I get it.
It's a feature I want constantly on my phone.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because if the phone is sitting down
the
phone is sitting down on a surface of a table, I don't have to like partially pick it up to hit the button on the side.
Mine doesn't
You could hit the home button.
Then
then no.
Well,
the home button.
It's loud. It's loud when you hit that home button. It's on the surface of the table in a quiet room.
You need to be quiet.
In a quiet room.
Sometimes.
Sometimes he goes to the library.
Sometimes I hit it with a hammer, and it makes me happy.
See, it's loud. So, look, you got the fancy Intel Inside logo on the back there as well.
Scrape that right off.
That's right. Oh, Francois is going to be very sad. It actually supports 2 SIMs, which is probably not something people in the U.S. will care about.
No, they're not.
Drug dealers.
Drug dealers will like it.
How does that work? Like
in the software, it's a swipe down, and you
just choose the other
software,
number?
and you choose the other SIM.
But then what happens if a text comes in on the...
Then you don't get it until you switch to the
You don't get
SIM.
it until you swipe back.
So it's just as if you had physically removed the SIM and put the other
So when
SIM
you get
in.
a phone call, one time it's from Angel for you, and then the other time it's from Angelique.
If you know what I mean.
Exactly.
I see.
They also shipped this folio case with it, which is pretty cool. Something we've seen on other phones before, where when you close it, it kind of has like a circular pattern that
You used to have a phone like that with a rectangle.
It was an S3.
Nobody's got a watch
S4.
like that.
It's my Galaxy S4.
The LG G3 also does that circle cover.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
does. It's look, it's very similar. Okay, we get it.
It also has the buttons on the back.
But does their cover on the back cover the back?
That almost looks like Corinthian leather.
Yeah, on the front. Just double tap. So Sebastian liked the display.
Yeah.
The interface was good. It does have ASUS Zen UI on it, so it's not a native Android experience. But it's not bad.
I would imagine there'd be
pretty
aftermarket firmways shortly. That,
Probably. As cheap as it is, being unlocked, I imagine it will be fairly popular with that kind of market. Look at the display comparison here. There's the kind of RGB representation.
Like it's pretty
good,
pretty close. Yeah.
Pretty good. And that's
Especially
the Nexus
considering
6.
the terrible screen on the Moto E, which is a $150 phone that he just reviewed.
Oh yeah,
That's true. That
screen
was a
is
horrible screen.
awful.
yeah. Performance-wise, very good results here. Comparing it to a bunch of other phones: Galaxy Note 4, Nexus 6, OnePlus One. Let me go where we got here. So you can kind of see it kind of falls in the middle of the pack in terms of these benchmarks.
Yeah.
Obviously, your
but it's
representation
really,
of these benchmarks
not
will
expensive
vary.
at all.
Yeah, they see like Google Octane, it's up there. Kraken, it's the winners. SunSpider, it wins. The Web Expert, it goes back and forth. Actually, it does really well.
Was this the phone Sebastian was ranting and raving about with the scrolling?
Smooth scrolling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The scrolling being extremely smooth, like smooth as
Yeah, and that's something that Intel has always told me that they focus on. Like when we did the Dell Venue 8 7000 tablet, that was something that again Intel was very much involved in the development process of that and making sure that
because it's the experience, not the performance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Graphics wise, that's where it falls in the middle. CPU did very well. Graphics wise, it's kind of. Jeremy, is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, unfortunately.
How much gaming you do, all that kind of stuff, will determine how much emphasis you put on this type of stuff.
No, it's Power VR. It's not.
It's interesting. I mean,
what you expect.
Yeah, and you can see that there is a difference between the two models, even in the GPU side, right? So you can see some of the scores there in the graphics department. There is some difference, but I think the 64 gigs of storage and the 4 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
Probably is.
That's a lot.
Is
4
better.
gigs of RAM.
Yeah, 4 gigs of RAM on a phone. Think about that. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, mine has 1.
It's a lot of memory. Now there is a theory. I don't know if this is true, that Intel, because they still have to do some binary translation for apps that are built for ARM. They're running on x86, and so the additional RAM gives them the ability to do that more efficiently, thus not hitting them on the battery.
I could see that
as hard. Cameron Audio was pretty good. There's a picture of his puppy. Isn't he cute?
His dog.
And there's another dog over there. Said that detail level was good, but not fantastic. It wasn't as good as like the iPhone or anything like that. But one thing he did like was it had a low light mode on the ASUS phone. So this is a picture taken with the iPhone 6.
Okay.
At low light at dusk in his house. Right, and this is the same picture taken with the Zenfone. Now, clearly there is noise in the image, but it's pretty good. And you can see it's running at f2, quarter second, ISO 1200. So actually, it's not that high of ISO.
Well, scroll up. What the iPhone run at? I'm curious.
iPhone ran at f2.2, 1/15 of a second, ISO 2000.
Yeah.
So
obviously the sensitivity is higher somehow in some other way.
You just enable low light shooting mode.
Yeah.
And it's pretty impressive. It combines a reduced resolution 3 megapixel and a very long exposure with a result like this without a flash.
Yeah, it's probably like quadrupling, like it's taking 4 pixels and making them 1 pixel basically.
Yeah. So I thought it was pretty cool. And that's the type of again, it's a function of the ASUS camera program, right? Working there.
Yeah.
Battery life not great. Pretty much in line with the Nexus 6. So I'd like to see that improve some more, be up in line with the Galaxy Note 4 might be a little bit harder to do since it has such a huge battery, but 1+1 should be attainable up there. Quick charging works. Conclusion, editor's choice from Sebastian. Pretty good for $199.
He also corrected us on the dual SIM stuff.
What do you say?
So they can both receive text and phone calls at the same time. But the second SIM is 2G only, so you aren't doing data across that.
Okay.
And when you're placing a call is when you get the option.
When you place a call.
Or probably sending a text, I would imagine. So it's the outgoing. You get everything incoming, but when you do outgoing.
Drug dealers will really love this.
That's true.
Yeah.
Even more
Travelers,
convenient.
not so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. ASUS Zenfone 2. Check that review out. I think a lot of people will like that phone because of its price. It's pretty awesome. All right. Run through these other things pretty quick. Here we go. Maury put a water cooler on a GTX 970.
Yeah.
Anybody? So here was the before.
It's worth showing a couple of pictures.
Here's the before.
Before. Yeah.
During.
Water block.
During. During. Damn it.
Damn it, Maury.
You got to click to the next.
Did he bend any pins?
Way before. He didn't even take the plastic off.
GPU?
No.
This is showing the removal. Yep.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Installing the heatsink for some of the power delivery.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yep. Those are power things.
Keep going. Keep going.
Ooh.
Oh.
Hey, look at that heatsink. That's nice.
That was a heatsink.
Big water cooler.
For a minute, that top picture made me excited.
It's true.
It would.
Oh, dirty copper.
It's like my life is just scrolling by.
RAM
So he's got a little adhesive heat sinks for the RAM.
So this is basically, for those of you in the audio version, I guess I should say, we're walking through the installation process of a water block on a GTX 970.
Sorry,
and,
audio
Maury
people.
kind of goes through this fairly completely, if you
Yeah.
will. Look at that. It's been a long time since I've installed like little individual RAM sinks like that. There we go. There we go. So you can see the water block itself.
It's like a giant owl sitting on top of the
GPU X heat killer.
Ah.
That was a pretty cool GPU cooler looking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks
I
nice.
agree.
Certainly cheaper than buying the full water block.
How much
It's
is it?
going to block the CMOS battery.
I mean, that's why he did it.
How much is that water block?
I don't remember.
I'll
It's
show you.
more money than you
So
can
here's
afford.
here's what it looked like installed in the system beforehand.
Yeah.
Here it is after. I believe this is part of Maury's QuakeCon
Oh, sure.
Oh dear.
shenanigans.
So yeah, he definitely is going to crack.
Yeah, he hasn't cracked enough dies and bent enough pins
My
yet.
damn PC doesn't work at QuakeCon. I got to use this AM1 system that I built.
So at stock settings with that same 970. So these are temperatures over ambient.
Delta.
I'm sorry. Well, Delta temperatures
Delta.
over ambient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So under load, 43 degrees Celsius with the air cooled and 10 degrees with the water block installed.
That's pretty impressive.
That would be probably take it down to about 50
Around
degrees
50
Celsius,
Yes.
if I were to guess. And then overclocked, it's actually less of a difference,
Yeah.
but still impressive. Yeah. That's
Not a bad investment for $65.
12 degrees over. What clocks did he run at here? I want to see if I'm impressed or not. Maintain 1354 megahertz GPU boost clock.
So that was $65 for that?
That's stock.
Yep.
Scroll down.
Oh, that's stock?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Overclocked.
Full coverage water box usually ends up running like over $100.
That
easily.
screenshot
Yeah.
he isn't applying an offset.
Yeah, I think he's got the
Also kind of
screenshot
easier to
next
screw up.
Or he's just
Thank
showing.
goodness we have editors.
Oh,
on
wait.
the site.
Stock with stock. No.
Oh,
okay.
there we go.
Yeah, here we go. Overclocking. Air-cooled overclocking results got up to 1459, a plus 125. Liquid-cooled got up to plus 150. So it looks like we're seeing clock speeds of about 1,542 megahertz and 8,000 megahertz on the memory.
That's pretty damn impressive.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. And sound testing, hey, guess what?
It doesn't make
quiet.
any sound.
It's there. It's pretty good. I mean, it's all right.
Hopefully no coal line,
I guess.
Sure.
So how much was this, Ken? You said it was less than the full.
$65.
I would imagine.
$65.
Oh, really? For the whole kit?
No, for the.
I think
I don't know if it.
Well, the card costs a bit extra, but
I don't know if the kit comes with the RAM sinks and that or not.
Okay.
But that's a lot
That's
cheaper
still-
than a full.
But
coverage
RAM
water
sinks
bottle.
Still
are
is, yeah.
RAM sinks like that are pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And the video card he bought, you can get on like Amazon for $309 right now.
you can buy it in black sparkle.
Well, why wouldn't you? What is that called again? That's the GPU X heat killer.
So
X3 core LC.
like, can you just stick that on basically any GPU with the 4-screw?
I think that's the theory.
That's the idea.
And because it looks like you get some wiggle room here with the
yeah.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
wiggle.
Just try to stick one of those on like a 980 Ti.
Yeah, you should. I'm not.
Send Maury some 980 Ti's.
Nope. And real quick,
Oh,
Allyn,
poor Maury.
you posted something up.
I moved it down to just the pick of the week to make it go faster.
Alrighty then.
Hey, you know what?
Moving along.
Next.
But I will slip something else in.
Oh,
You're going to have to
Jesus.
deal with a new ASUS technical marketing guy.
Oh, what happened to the old guy?
Jeff Gazier from Tech Report. He
What?
gave up his press credentials and he went over to ASUS. Just announced.
He didn't ask me
He did not.
for permission to do that.
Aces?
I mean,
technically?
nor
hear
is his next door neighbor Canadian,
Wait a minute.
Jeremy.
Good on you, Jeff.
Who did their guy used to be?
He was their
He didn't replace
SSD guy,
anybody.
the guy who
Yeah.
did that big,
Well, who's
hang
like the
out with
main
me before.
ASUS?
Now I've got no choice. Now I've got no chance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, nobody got fired at ASUS. You're fine.
Everybody got
That's not what I
promoted,
mean, like-
if you know what I mean.
Congrats to Jeff.
Yeah.
Scott,
Way to go,
I'm really
Jeff.
sorry.
Oh shit!
I feel bad for
Are you hiring Scott?
One of my
true.
main writers just left.
He's gonna pull all his hair.
You know, it's
out.
funny. I was wondering why Scott was calling me earlier today. It just he wants somebody to underperform.
It showed up as a 900 number, though. It was weird.
Yeah.
976.
Josh is like, I'm usually the one that
TR
calls these.
blow.
They don't call me.
Nice. So, a couple other things real quick. NVIDIA GameWorks enhancements coming to Metal Gear Solid game, otherwise known as Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I don't know how much shit this is going to stir up, but NVIDIA said, I guess they released this in a blog post over E3. Our engineers are signed up to work closely with Konami to get the graphics just right and to add special effects. So you can expect maybe physics in here, maybe
Some tessellation.
some tessellation stuff, some hair works. I don't know. There's not usually a lot of hair in Metal Gear games.
If
No,
Right,
but there's
if
going to be a new
Raiden's
furry
in it.
level.
That's
and it's
true.
gonna look
if
gorgeous
he
on
gets this-
NVIDIA.
Yeah. This will be interesting to see, you know, after the Witcher 3 stuff and how all this rolls downhill, I guess. But I'm not a negative person on GameWorks. I think if they can continue to implement cool stuff,
Nothing we can say until we see the game.
and A and B can stay on board and keep up, then we'll see. And when's that game come out? Is that this year?
Yeah.
Even on the PC?
I don't care.
Oh, Jeremy, don't be such a funny. But let's talk about the game that nobody cares about. At all. Nobody even.
Because when you watched that, you didn't get any goose pimples. You didn't think,
wasn't
wow,
goose
I want to play
pimples.
this now.
One giant goose pimple, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
What is...
So this is Star Wars Battlefront, the new EA DICE created game.
Boy, that
looks
video is running really
totally
poorly.
awesome.
through
Yeah,
this.
it's because
Yep.
of
If you'd
the
installed an
software
ADATA
streaming.
SSD, it would be.
No, it's running fine
It
on my
runs
machine.
very smooth on
We're
Ryan's
doing
here.
network video.
We're doing network
Yeah.
video across the thing there. This looks awesome. I could just probably play it over and over again just to listen to the music and like be in that setting,
Yeah.
right?
You know, because
Here's-
that's totally
here's the deal.
canon.
Here's
Look at
what
that!
I
Look at that!
think
There was
they
a Star
have
Destroyer up there.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have nailed it.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that
There's
okay? If you
ADATA,
remember
there's
playing
ATST.
Battlefield, what? If you remember playing Battlefield 1942, it was a lot of action. It required a little bit of accuracy,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was just fun with well set up maps.
Yeah.
Everything was great. And then we've gotten to Battlefield 3 and 4, where some of the fun's been taken out because you have to be more accurate. You got to have all these different weapons, and it just
shit.
it just is not nearly as fun. You can pick it up. This looks like
Oh, look, is that a jetpack?
It has taken back the original feeling of 42, where
Yeah.
you can take a Jeep with a guy on the front and some landmines,
Yep.
and just go wreak havoc on Wake Island, and it's awesome.
Hey, look, there's a Greedo.
Gimme.
Rodian.
And this comes out this year, right? November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That is a jetpack.
it is a jetpack.
Oh, I know it's a jetpack.
It's
more like
They
a
show it
boost
in use
pack.
a couple of times.
It's a boost pack. Like
Oh.
you jump and you get to boost across it. But like, blow up one of the things. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, eat it.
There you go.
Boom. That explosion looks great. Oh, take out that ATST. They didn't.
Oh, you're going to call an herbal to strike.
This video gets real good now.
Can't let those rebels
Oh yeah, that's right.
hit
'Cause
the uplink.
so they've been showing only like individual kind of unit ground forces.
Yeah.
Infantry play, but now like, oh look, you can pilot an AT-AT and shoot those poor suckers on the ground.
Yeah, but everyone's just gonna run to the ADATs and then
No, I think
You
like,
might be able to steer it.
that they're gonna crash it.
Hey, I'm an AT-AT pilot. Lol. I'm gonna blow you up. If,
Just gonna blow
if-
the
if you
X-wing
take it in front of
into
me.
the ground.
and then look, now you can be the speeder, and of course you can fire the grapple and wrap around
Yeah.
the legs and stuff. You can fly an X-wing and a TIE fighter. It looks awesome. I want to see more levels. Obviously, this is a multiplayer game. There's no single player campaign really. They might build.
Probably is.
They'll build something.
I would really hope there's a single player.
There's not going to be a single player
is.
campaign like you're thinking. It's going to be based on playing large scale multiplayer maps, though.
Yeah, there will be a single player scenario based, but it's just going to be a bunch of the multiplayer maps. There will be a co-op mode that they sort of showed off, where it's two guys being dumped on a planet.
That looks awesome.
Looks pretty much like you survive the waves of attacks. And then there's going to be this mode.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
And damn you, EA, damn you, because
You're going to have to buy Origin, aren't you? You're going to download Origin.
well, I've got Origin. I just hate myself for having it.
Oh,
I
they're
hate myself for buying EA
they're
games
getting
on
my
day
money.
one, but I'm not going to be able to resist.
It just looks
'Cause
good
look,
too. I mean,
First-person TIE fighter.
it looks really good.
I
yeah,
haven't seen that since
And
1994.
this is PS4 footage.
yeah. They
Yeah,
say
this is only PS4.
This is recorded on the PS4. And Ken, you actually got to see this, right?
No.
They didn't have a demo.
Oh well.
Like, could
I,
you s-
I think they had a 10-second gameplay video on a bad projector.
Oh, not like they didn't have
Oh,
running
for
in
the
a demo
PC
room.
version, yeah.
All those
Look,
demos-
it's a Greedo.
It's a Radeon.
Whatever. Nerd.
You know.
Anyway.
With a jetpack.
Well, no,
I like
no,
how,
no,
like-
wait for it.
Oh yeah. I guess we're almost.
We gotta wait for it.
We're
now.
almost at the end, so
Yeah.
we might as well keep watching. So they got they obviously have to add stuff to the Star Wars canon that didn't really exist before, like shields and grenades.
And time-traveling Luke Skywalker.
Ah! Yeah,
Uh-oh.
that was Darth Vader. I'm curious how this works in the multiplayer mode. Like, who gets to be Luke Skywalker?
Probably the guy with the most kills gets automatically.
And then, like, the last
upgraded.
60 seconds, he gets to become Luke or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
It's going for Darth.
yeah.
Well, I would hope so.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Give me now.
Yeah,
I need this.
yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty
Good old
awesome.
Star Wars Battlefield.
I'll take it. All right, we're going to get into our hardware software picks of the week. I don't have one because I was too busy futzing with
Star
hard
Wars
drive laptop.
Battlefront.
A Star Wars Battlefront and SSD upgrades for your laptop.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, whatever laptop you use, if it has a hard drive, do yourself
Upgrade
and
it.
me a favor and buy an SSD.
Put McAfee endpoint encryption on it.
No.
Please do. Anyway, sorry, nothing from me. Moving on down the line to Jeremy. What do you got for me?
All right, I was a little desperate this week, but I did stumble across something. It's not Al's favorite SSD, but
It was a good SSD.
The ADATA Premier Pro SP920.
Yeah.
It's $89 for the 256 gig on Newegg right now.
That's not a lot of cents per gigabyte.
That's
What is
not
that?
a lot of sense.
What is
at
that
all.
in cents per gig? It's
Let me do the math.
do the
It's
math.
41 cents.
Oh. Okay. That's kind of
No,
going.
it's 34 cents.
Oh, I'm wrong.
Then that's the lowest we've
Can't
seen.
you use a calculator, Bo?
That's
no, I
like
was using my head, and
that's like the
obviously I
lowest
can't
we've seen
use
for
it.
sale prices.
34
cents a
I
gig?
stumbled
I thought
upon
we
that
saw
one. I'm like,
31
yeah,
or
okay,
something.
that's
We saw
pretty
31
good.
Like an M200.
very briefly for
10
like
cents. I want
it's
10
not
cents.
no.
It'll be there.
And
I
you'll
want 10 cents.
you'll have gray hair.
No, you're crazy.
No, you won't.
Well, yeah,
I'll
the
have
kid will be
gray
born
hair.
with
It'll be
it.
like this
Listen.
time 2016, 10
And-
cents a gig.
And you'll have a kid that's 2.
This time next year, I will not have a kid who's 2.
Oh, this time next year
He's
You'll have
as
a kid.
good at math
you'll have a
as
kid
I
that's
am.
1. Sorry, I was thinking
very
it was 20.
difficult. I
I was thinking it was
understand.
2014 for some reason. Yeah, you'll have gray hair.
It's June.
It's gonna happen.
I don't ever have gray hair. I'll just dye it or shave it. So there you go.
Oh, I see.
I'll be the bald guy.
Cheater.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Are the 512 and 1 terabyte similar discounts?
No, not
No.
quite.
But that's okay
1
because
terabyte for
256
$400.
isn't 256 isn't bad, and
No,
if
it's
you
still
want
pretty
more
good.
space, buy 2 of them and RAID 0 them.
Yeah,
Honestly.
because it was
You can
only
do
the
that in
128
the
you saw the slowdown on, right?
Say that again.
It was only the 128 you saw a bit of the slowdown on the rights.
I think so on that, and even if the 256 slowed down a little bit on the right, like 256 would usually be the one where it slows down just marginally, right? 128 is where you take the bigger hit, and it's like half the speed at 256, that kind of thing. But again, that's writes, and you're not necessarily you're not writing to these things all the time at greater than 300 meg per second anyway. So,
Sorry.
There you go.
I gotta watch my phone. Who's next? Josh?
Me?
Okay, so last week I talked about the G29 and G920.
You did.
These are down to 239, and they have a lot of the same internals. Plus,
these what? You said last week you talked about the G29 and the G920, and then you said these are down to 239. What are you talking about?
Correct.
They've been
G27.
Oh, so you never said the words.
They've been at that for a while.
It's because you've interrupted me.
It's not
multiple
because
times.
Of that.
So those other new parts are $399.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These are $239, and they share a lot of the same internals. Plus, they actually include the shifter, which the others at $399 do not.
It's like a what? How much is the add-on shifter?
$49.
Yeah.
G29 doesn't show up anywhere yet, does it? No.
Nope.
So we haven't still figured out if the internals are actually better in the new ones or not.
Right,
we have no idea.
We have no idea. Still, for $239, that's a pretty good price for that.
Yeah.
You get the shifter on this. You don't get the shifter at $399.
That's true.
But I mean, come on, you're going to use the paddles, right?
I wouldn't use a shifter.
We're all adults here.
Like if I bought that, I wouldn't need the shifter.
It's okay.
Unless I really wanted to go sequential and get the full experience.
The myth of manual transmissions being that much better is going away.
It's
in real cars and for driving because I do it for fun, not for simulation. If I wanted to drive for simulation, I'd get on the freeway in traffic.
Sequential gearboxes are light enough to the point where it's not really Used to be that the sequential gearboxes were heavier and stuff like that, and so there was still an advantage to go manual.
Right.
Right.
And last, maybe least, I'm not sure. We'll let Allyn decide.
I don't know. It's
why is it in plastic?
It actually comes with this.
It's because Allyn likes the dock.
If you ever, I love the dock.
That's pretty good, wasn't it?
So
you love that.
So if you ever had one of these sitting on your desk for a while, and
what is that?
It's
for people
just a hard drive. It's a hard drive dock, dual hard drive dock, SATA, right? And I have one of these sitting on my desk at home, and it is caked. It's just got dust, goes down in the slot.
Right, because you're not really using it all the time.
Yeah, if you're not using your thing all the time, then it gets dusty.
If you don't use your thing all the time, it gets dusty.
So this comes with just a
dust cap.
It's a very simple.
I put it on wrong.
Put on wrong.
It's the packaging. It's not a dust cap.
No, it's a dust cap.
Yeah, but look, if you've got it plugged in, it's only ever going to go down that far. Because of the cables on the back.
It's kind of hole in the back.
I think the SSDs are going to stick out further than that.
But it's kind of thin.
If you had to modify,
you could just cut it.
If you have to modify it, it's not a dust cap.
Well, it's a dust cap.
Now, if it sits up like that, it's a dust hat.
Okay, it's a dust hat. Anyway.
So now if this, by the way, what he's talking about, again, for our audio listeners, is an Inateck FD 2002 USB 3.0 dual bay UASP enabled USB 3.0 dock.
Yes.
UASP is the thing that's kind of unique.
It means it can do queued commands, right? So if you're using an SSD or even for hard drive use, it will speed things up somewhat.
What's this button do?
So if you hit it like that, it doesn't do anything. Thank goodness. There is a clone button.
Ooh, automatically overwrites one of the drives.
Yeah, and well, luckily, if you push it the way that Ryan just was, it doesn't do anything. Okay.
Dad, what's this button do?
Yeah,
Dad.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
No.
So if you only have one drive in this, I would recommend only ever putting it, in slot A there.
So
it's not
what's it supposed
destination.
to do? How do you actually use it?
So you hold the button down for I think it's 3 seconds, and then when you let go of it after 3 seconds, the 100% light will come on, and as soon as it comes on, you have to within a quarter second hit the button again. And
Turn your key, sir.
And then that, and then that will start the process. It's actually it's just tricky enough to where even having read the directions, I had to do it twice to get it to actually initiate because I wasn't fast enough.
So the idea is it will just copy from this one to this one.
Copies from A to B.
Clone.
It'll clone.
It's got a percentage thing.
It has a percentage. It'll actually show you
accurate?
It's reasonably accurate. Yeah, I timed it and kind of tracked with how it was finishing, right? Okay. It goes at a pretty fast rate. It went almost full. Well, you wouldn't expect, because this is just using the hardware inside the dock.
Well, it has to go at least as fast as the drives can go out through USB 3. Otherwise, you can't get it out through USB 3.
But I've tested these things in the past, and the cloning has never.
Pictures of it, Ken,
the cloning has never been full speed, really.
Sure. Okay.
Usually, right?
Yeah.
And this is still not full SATA speed, but it's close. So it's like around 400 microsecond-ish, something like that. So
Right.
it's, pretty reasonably fast. Couple of catches.
Ooh, dust cap.
There's one catch that...
Stabsachsenachtung.
Yes. There's one catch that kind of caught me a little bit weird, is that, like, say you had 2 drives that were the same exact capacity.
Say I did.
Yeah. You can't.
And you wanted to clone them.
You can't clone it with this.
Wait, what?
Destination has to be larger than the source.
That's not uncommon for cloning.
It is not uncommon for cloning, but I still think they should have at least let it be the same.
If I have a 4 terabyte WD red, and I put in another 4 terabyte WD red, I can't do that?
Correct.
It'll laugh at you.
That's vulgar.
Just won't do it.
Oh.
What is the reason?
I guess the concept is you're kind of like, usually you would clone something over if you're upgrading to a larger drive anyway.
But what if I'm not?
I understand. So, and I mentioned that in the review. It's kind of like
Can you think of a technical reason?
It's kind of like a downer. I cannot.
Is there a technical?
It's got to be some sort of a cache. Because I've run into it many a time cloning with software. Really? There's some, it dumps a bunch over, error corrects it, and then actually does it. But this is a thing. And it's probably going to be more difficult than you'd think to put a cache in that device to handle that extra space.
But it's just going from one drive to another. It should just be able to do it.
It's frustrating as hell, but
either way,
a thing.
Even if this thing didn't do cloning at all,
it's
still a pretty decent deal.
Did you have 2 different sizes of 730 SSDs?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm looking at them, I'm like, well.
Are you questioning that?
Yeah, I cloned the 240 to the 480.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
So even without the cloning feature, which
There's
really you're probably not going to use the cloning feature more than a couple of times.
Yeah.
Anyway.
True.
Right.
Sure.
If you're really a person that needs to be able to clone identical sized drives, you probably are doing that for like some business purpose or something. You're going to have like a much heavier duty thing anyway that clones multiple drives at the same time.
Not me, buddy.
Not you. Okay. So all of that stuff aside, it's for $40. It's a UASP USB 3 dual dock that goes full speed of all the drives I tried to plug into it, and it support 6 terabyte red, no problem.
It has a lot of positive reviews on Amazon here.
Yeah, I mean it's as far as just raw performance of the thing, it's great. It's got a good performing chip in it. It's actually a couple of chips in it. There's like a USB 3 bridge, and then it bridges over to like a SATA multiplexer chip basically, or like a port multiplier chip. So you're able to get 2 SATAs out of out of what usually would just be a single SATA dock. So, pretty good thing. So I'm recommending it.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Move along.
Moving along.
It's late.
It's the end of the show. Thanks, everybody. PCPer.com/podcast is where you can download the shows. You can listen to it all over again, and we highly encourage you to do so. Also, we'll have the video version there. Links to all the stories and topics we discussed will be there, show notes, all that stuff. PCPer.com/subscribe, YouTube.com/PCPer, Facebook.com/PCPer, Twitter.com/PCPer. All those things are things that you should go visit and use and take advantage of. And it is late, and I'm very tired, and I'm going to sleep in my bed this evening. So I'm looking forward to doing that shorter drive home tonight.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll see you next week, guys. I'm Ryan Trout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Mullentine.